Was anyone else as surprised or interested of what was shown in this episode? Because now I gotta talk about that. Hey there, this is your Matt Doodle with my Thomas Hands, doing right here with another video. And today, I'll talk about Daredevil, Born Again, Episode 4. Now, again, I have said multiple times I was very worried about how the show was going to go. Of course, it was going to be very different than a Netflix show, or at least that's how I thought. But being 4 episodes in, you've gotten so used to how the show functions, how it's structured, that now you just feel comfortable with it, with the uneasiness. Because, again, these episodes are very uneasy. They just make you very cautious and very sad. As we show in the beginning of this episode, we've seen the aftermath of the White Tiger's death. We see that, they show off everything that he has. His mask, he has his amulet, and I hope they give it back to the family because those do belong to his family. They do not belong to anyone else. Yes, technically the amulet is superpowered, so the government tends to take them, but I really hope they don't because that is not theirs. And we probably will see the new White Tiger because while Matt is talking to the coroner, even though the coroner is being kind of a dick because he doesn't even care about the body, which is sad. I feel like, yes, this is a dead body to you. I feel like you should still care. But then again, this is Hell's Kitchen in Daredevil, so there's that. But I love showing that, Daredevil is very not okay with this, that he does feel responsible. Not as much as I honestly thought he would be, but still responsible. And we get to see Angela Del Toro, which is the second White Tiger. Now, this is not the White Tiger that most of us probably knew from the Ultimate comics. That actually ends up being the younger sister of the White Tiger, of Hector. Finally, I got their names right. But we haven't seen her. We have seen his niece, which does become the second White Tiger. And I don't know if they're going to do anything with her yet, because again, she's a young kid right now. So I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe they may change it, where they may show off the sister being the second White Tiger first, and then Angela being the third one. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's going to go by the same story as the comics. Probably not, because this is the MCU now. But it's cool that we get a little nod to who will most likely be the second White Tiger, or third at this case. I'm not sure. And something that I haven't really mentioned throughout the show, but I feel like it's relevant now, is that we get all these murals in Hell's Kitchen of Fisk, Daredevil, the Punisher, and I just find that cool that it was just spread out through each individual episode, and you're like wondering who it is. And we know that because of all the leaks and who's going to show up in the show, that it was going to be Muse, a serial killer that uses actual human blood to make his art, which is gross. And the reason I wanted to talk about that is because he's actually in here, and we actually get to see what he looks like in this show. And he does look freaky and interesting. I'm surprised it took us 4 episodes in, but it's better late than never. And they haven't really showed too much of him, but I am curious what they're going to do with him. And there was this that I wasn't 100% sure if I should have mentioned, because it could have been a nothing, but I wanted to mention it because it weirdly freaked me out. You know that one guy, I haven't really mentioned him, but he was basically like Fisk's right-hand man, or basically stuff. I don't know what he is, to be honest. But Fisk keeps him there for probably to be hip with the younger crowd. I'm not 100% sure, but we see him at a bar with these girls, and apparently Fisk is putting him in a very tight leash about the time he's supposed to be home or be in the office. And I'm like, how much of a tight hold does Fisk have on this guy? And does he have something on him? Is there something going on? Is the guy trying to seem like a father figure? What is it? And the reason I also wanted to talk about this is because when he was supposed to leave and he was supposed to go home, right? I was genuinely worried that him or the girls were going to get taken by Muse, because for the little bit of time we saw Muse, we see him take people, to use them in his art. So that's what I mean when I still really love all the tenseness that this show brings. Even when nothing happens, the show makes it really apparent that you're never safe, no matter what you do. And I love that they give you that vibe, even with a simple thing of someone going home and how unsafe it is. And related to Fisk, I personally like the fact that he's technically getting therapy with Vanessa about the marrow problem, since Vanessa basically cheated, and Fisk kind of was away for a long time because of his eyes. And I love that Kristen, Matt's girlfriend, is a therapist. I was honestly worried that she was just going to be Fisk's hostage, or basically manipulate her to be against Vanessa, because Fisk is a manipulative ass. We know that, right? And I find it funny seeing Fisk trying to actually work out with his marriage, and it's just funny to me. But it makes me very worried for Kristen anytime they're there, because one, it's Fisk, Vanessa's no saint either. But I do like this one thing where at the end of their session, Kristen asks Vanessa if Fisk is hurting her, which is ironic because Fisk will hurt anyone else, but he will not put his hands on his wife. So that's good. But I love that Kristen, actually asks about that because she thinks that Fisk is, hurting some people. And, that's obviously the case, but I just find that hilarious. And something that I find really interesting is that Matt's doing his job in this show. Like, even though he failed with Hector, I mean, he still technically won, but he failed in keeping him alive. He is still doing pro bono work and helping other people with people who can't, afford really big lawyers like him. And one thing I really like is about who he decides to represent. I don't know this guy that they introduced. I think he's new for the show. He could be someone important from the comics. If you know, please let me know. I'd be very interested. But I really like what they're talking about here because this guy was, arrested because he was stealing food. And you're like, oh yeah, he's just like one of those bad people because he has all these priors. He has all these times he was in prison. And you don't really think about it until he talks with Matt because Matt is trying to basically say, hey, have a deal, 20 days, 30 days, you only need to be there in jail. And then he offers him like a 10-day deal in jail, which honestly, if you think about it, would be really good if you're like in that case. But I love what the guy did for Matt, which opened Matt's eyes, ironically. Because yes, Matt went through a lot of hardship in his life. And it probably wasn't as good, especially being blind. And yes, I know he has superpowers that allow him to basically be a normal person without his eyes, but he still rose up to, have money. He rose up to have a successful law firm. And one thing I really like is they show the poverty of our world. They go really deep into it because this guy explains that he does not want to do this. He does not want to be in these bad situations. Yes, he's made mistakes and that's on him. But I love that they show that, hey, because I had all these priors and I was in jail, I couldn't, pay my rent or I couldn't do what I need to do. And then he just becomes more homeless and then he can't pay for stuff. And then he's going in the trash to try to eat and he stole food because he needed that. And I'm like, oh my God, they really go into the heart of the problem. So I'm wondering, what will Matt do for this guy or how will he get him, to just get out? Because Matt still has to go through the law normally, right? That's Matt's thing. He wants to do everything by the book, at least at this point in time. But this specific part, I don't know why, it really spoke to me because we don't really see a lot of this in comic book stuff, especially in the MCU. It's always about the big things, superheroes fighting the big bad, but not like someone trying to help someone who's down on his luck. I miss that so much. And going back to Fisk, I find it cool that he's, actually trying to do the mayoral things, not just use that as a front. He's actually trying to do change. Like he's trying to change the docks, the place that there was a lot of shootings out and doing his mayoral thing. The funny thing though is that because he's usually, the boss of everything because he's doing crime and all stuff, he does not know how to be the mayor at all, which I think is, kind of going into our real world stuff a little too much at this point, which is funny because this show came out way before our current climate, but it really relates so much. But he says he does not have time for red tape. He does not want to have to go through proper channels to, do the change he needs to do. But I like that everyone else is trying to rein him down, but I feel like that's like very scary because this is the Kingpin. You do not want to mess with him. You do not want to say no to him, but like, can he risk anything? Because, he's in this mayoral position, but what would happen if they found out what he's done by doing something illegal? I'm not sure. But this also gets into something that I also find really interesting because his advisor, whoever he is, I don't know his name, is young and is, basically the guy to make Fisk look good to the younger crowd. Yeah, but apparently he makes a mistake and makes Fisk look bad. And I like this because it shows that Fisk still has cracks in his shell, showing that he does not have patience for anyone, no matter who you are. And that is cool because we get to see the Fisk that we've known before. He's angry. He's pissed off. He has no patience for anyone. And you're terrified because when the young guy basically, says what he's done, basically tries to take up ownership, I was genuinely under the impression that Fisk was going to kill him because, again, Fisk does not play. So the fact that he didn't fire him, I was interested. So what is his goal with this kid? Does he want him to be a successor? Does he actually see him as a son now? I am genuinely interested. And then there's this other woman who I think is actually Fisk's advisor. I don't know how the mayoral system works. I don't know who's under him. I don't know how that works. But she's basically, actually showing all the appointments, putting him in different places to be a mayor, basically, right? And I think she has ulterior motives because she does say at this point, I was here before Fisk and, the kid, and I will be here after. Is there a reason why she said that? Does she want to do something more? I don't know. Now, back to Matt. We see him, trying to find the bullet that shot Hector. And I really like what they did here because they kind of use that new zoom in effect for him to show where he could find it. And I love that he's smart about it. He throws a bottle, where's it landing, and it goes into a drain and he finds it. And I love that that he's blind because he's not looking anywhere. And I think that's where Charlie Cox is really good in the role. I do want to say I do kind of feel bad for him that he does this role because there have been cases where he says he doesn't look people in the eyes, mainly because of his role playing a blind man for so long and he's kind of been typecasted. I'm glad he has work as Daredevil again, but he finds the bullet and he notices it has a skull on it. So you know where he goes? He goes to the Punisher, Frank Castle's hideout. Now, I'm going to be very honest. I have not watched the Punisher show after season 1. So I don't know what happened. So if anyone can tell me, I'd be really much appreciated. But he goes to Frank's hideout. I don't know what Matt was doing there. I think he just wanted to show Frank that there are people using his skull, which does get me into a little thing that I want to talk about real quick. Because it shows that the Punisher does not care or doesn't have any motives to do anything. That I'm kind of worried about that because I heard that there wasn't really much of the actor in this show. And I feel like that's a waste of using him if this is the only appearance, because then it wouldn't be showing that, Punisher hates these cops, hates that they're using his symbol. I don't know if the Punisher's going to have more scenes, but I hope he does something. And then it leads me into another thing that I also really love, which I find really cool, and it really shows the chops of these two actors and how comfortable they've been with each other. Because Frank basically tries to point out Matt's anger and frustration because he's being really a good therapist to him, because he basically points out that everything Matt does now is because of Foggy, even though Matt tries to avoid it every time he's talking about it. And I was like, okay, then I'm more interested, I'm interested. And Frank just keeps grinding him, and it's all that stuff. I still love their spat that Frank believes that people should die if they've done bad things, while Matt is also still trying to get him to be alive. And I love that Frank kind of points out the flaw in Matt's logic, I guess, because he points out that Poindexter Bullseye got to live while Foggy basically had to die. And I find that conversation was really heartfelt. Made me almost cry. I really hope we get to see more of the actor of Punisher. I'm sorry, I forgot the actor's name. And I hope he does something about the cops using his symbol. Because I don't know if I just feel comfortable with Daredevil just being the only one confronting them. But it's just my opinions. What do you think? But after that, I do feel like we're getting back into more familiar territory because it shows Fisk talking with Vanessa, talking about how they're changed, how they're doing better, and it parallels with Matt, being with Christine. They are in love. They really care about each other. It shows that they both have what they wanted now, both normal lives. Fisk got to be mayor. He is getting his relationship with Vanessa kind of better, I think. And Matt is learning to let someone in again and, love her and, be normal. But one thing I really love about this ending is it shows that we're going back to the status quo, kind of showing Matt, yes, he's happy. Yes, he's enjoying life. But we see that he cannot just be normal because he goes to, I guess, a basement. I guess he's like Batman now because he has his own little compartment where he has all his different masks, which, Matt, where did you get that? And who made the helmets? Because I remember the guy that made all your suits is in prison. So let me wonder where you got these. It's cool to see them, but now I'm just thinking you're Batman. Daredevil's Batman at this point. He's rich. He has a very expensive home. He has gadgets, and he has a bunch of suits or a bunch of helmets at this point. But this is really interesting to see because on the flip side, we see Fisk going somewhere very stingy to eat a bunch of food, which I find funny because he's apparently supposed to be on a diet, and we see him eat all this ginormous food, I guess, to show that he's going back to his old ways, even though he's supposed to be, much healthier. And we transfer it back with Matt going and using his billy clubs back like a weapon again and using them in such ferocity. And I'm like, Matt just wants to be Daredevil again. He wants to be free. And you're just so excited. You really want him to be back. And that makes me wonder if he's going to do that in the next episode. And I really want him to be back. And I want to see if he changes his suit. I want to see if he will maybe finally have the double D's on his chest. I know that may not happen because apparently this Daredevil just doesn't have a logo for some reason. Is it because he's blind? I don't know. But on the flip side, it's weird seeing Fisk eat food in a really stingy place just probably to hide his hunger at home, I guess, with Vanessa, which I find so stupid. But one thing that I knew was going to happen was that he had Adam there, the guy that Vanessa was having an affair with, which of course he was. See, we saw Fisk with bloody knuckles, and we were just wondering, did he kill Adam? And I was thinking he didn't, because he still, yes, he promised Vanessa to keep him alive, to not kill him. So technically, he's telling the truth, and he's doing that while keeping Adam in a cage, basically starving him while eating in front of, which I think is a big fu to him. And I find that so interesting. Like, is this gonna lead into something? Is this gonna lead into him snapping? Because Fisk seems to already get annoyed with him being mayor, and seems to be getting a lot of outbursts now. And that makes me wonder if Matt is going to go back on his rule of just being a lawyer and actually want to be Daredevil, because he looked like he had so much fun using his billy club and looking at his helmets. What do you think? Do you think that's going to happen? Do you think they're going to go back to their old ways? And if you do, how do you think that's going to happen? Because I am not 100% sure. Is there going to be a reason for Matt to be Daredevil again? Or was it just the talk with Punisher for him to be himself? I'm very curious. Do you think that Wilson Fisk is going to go back to his old ways? Does Vanessa know that he has Adam caged up basically like an animal while eating in front of? Does she know? Because she knows that he's hiding stuff from her, and I'm wondering if that's going to do anything. But those are just my thoughts on Daredevil Born Again episode 4. What did you think? Did you like this episode? Did you not? I would really like to know your opinions. I got really interested that we finally got to see Angela, the second White Tiger. We got to see Matt and Fisk going back to their old ways. And I'm interested, what is the deal with this one guy that Matt is helping out? Will he help him, or is he going to die? I'm very curious. What is Fisk going to do to Adam? I have so many questions. Do you got questions? And if you do, leave them in the comments down below. And if you like this video and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you can get notified when all my videos come out. There are probably going to be a lot of Daredevil related episodes because I am personally really liking the show and I really want to talk about it. But if there's nothing else, this has been Dynamite. I hope everyone stays nerdy, and I hope to see everyone in the next video. Bye!